Hi, everybody. Hello. Hello, Stephanie. People dribbling in. How are you?
Good. Well, just finished our hack, so well.
That was amazing. Wasn't that amazing? Hi,
Yeah,
everybody.
good.
Hello.
I really enjoy to take part in some hackathons because I can.
Oh, hang on a sec. I've got a problem because I'm on live streaming
Well, just
YouTube.
finished our hack, so well.
That was amazing. Wasn't that amazing? Don't worry. I'm sorry about that. When I start the live stream, the YouTube starts up and it repeats what we're saying, which is really confusing. But hopefully the live stream is now up and running. Right. Yes. Anyway, the hack was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You enjoy it?
Yeah, I really like to enjoy some hackathons because I can communicate with different ideas. Yeah.
Good.
And in our hackathon we did twice Crazy 8, so we have lots of ideas.
Oh, very good. Very, very good. Yeah. I'm delighted to hear that. Good. Okay, so let's see. Few people dribbling in. I'm hoping to get some more, and hopefully we'll get our speakers joining and just check they're not trying to get in. Okay.
Is there any problem? Because I saw someone drop in and then they leave.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope not. Let's just check all the links. Just remind how many we've just got 6 people at the moment. Adrian, hello. Here comes everybody. They tend to come almost exactly on the hour, don't they? Just a reminder, everybody, that we are live streaming at the moment onto YouTube. And I'm just going to put the tweet out there, actually, so bear with.
Have you had your lunch, Clive?
Yes, very, very quick one. Thank you. Let's just see what I've done with it. Right. Copy link.
Hello.
Hey, hello, Adrian and Clara. Lovely to see you.
Hi, Clive. Good to see you.
Before you say anything, I need to tell you the YouTube stream is on.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
So we're live. I'm going to press the record button now because I always forget. It's really fantastic to see you. I'm just putting out a quick link onto Twitter, of course, live on Service Design TV. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting us.
Well, it's an interesting story, which I'll tell in a second. Let me just send my tweet. You know, men can't really double task. So whereabouts are you two? You look like
in our studio.
Yeah, we're in the studio.
And whereabouts is that?
It's in Fournier Street near Spitalfields, near
yeah.
Liverpool Police Station.
That's a stunning street.
Yeah, it's very beautiful.
It is.
You can probably see outside. I don't know if anyone's.
I don't know if I can show you. I mean, I'm kind of wired in now, but yeah, it's really nice old street. It's sort of like lots of houses from the 1700s, and we lucked out. We managed to find a studio here ages ago. That we've had for like a decade now, so yeah, we love it here.
That's fantastic. It's a Huguenot street, isn't it? I believe.
Yeah. We're opposite Gilbert and George's house as well, so we have this
neighbours. Hey.
Yeah.
Everyone asked for sugar.
Yeah. Not yet. We do have their old Hoover though, because they sometimes put stuff out, and I just thought it was too good to throw away.
Gilbert and George's. I mean that's even. eBay's not good enough for that, is it really?
No, the dust, it's Gilbert and George's dust. It feels, very special.
That's fantastic. That's really tickled me. Thank you. So we're waiting for students to come in. We've got up to about 42 already. Hopefully in the next few minutes we're gonna get a few more than that. We are live on YouTube, and we normally get a sprinkling of people coming on that, which is great. And of course people can access this talk. We started up SDTV as a way of sort of talking about design to a wider audience, and it's just beginning. You're the second people to come on it. The first one was Joe McLeod, whose Mac blew up halfway through. So he's coming back next week, I think. Yeah, next week, to do his talk on ends. So welcome students as you come in. Welcome anybody watching on YouTube. You're very, very welcome. This is Service Design TV. I was so delighted that Adrian and Clara agreed to join me from Special Projects. The story is that I was judging a design prize with John Mathers from the Design Council, who I know you know, and I came across your work. I thought, wow, this is interesting. I think my students should see this. So I found out who you were and got in touch with you. And it turns out you know Carolyn Runcie, and you actually know the course for ages, and you're ex-RCA. I was the last person to work this out, sorry. But you're very, very welcome. I'm really, really glad you've been able to join us. Numbers of students are coming up. That's really good. We just give it another couple of minutes chit chat before we start. Obviously, I'm Clive Grinier. I'm the head of program here at Service Design. You've got Service Design students in front of you. As you probably know, Service Design is about 8 years old, run by Nick de Leon for up until last year. So I joined last year, and it's been quite a year, as you can imagine. But it's been amazing. Just to let you know, our first years have just finished, literally half an hour ago. A 3-day hack, design hack, as we call it, rather than a hackathon, on design for healthy aging using the government grand challenge. And we've just had George McGuinness on looking at the 15 presentations. They're probably exhausted, so I'm not sure how many first years we're going to get on, but that's the reason we record these things. So students we've got students who are very early in the morning in US to getting quite late at night in China and Korea and all points east as well as all points west. So right now it's a pretty crazy world, obviously. But it's allowed us to do other things like this. So we're doing the best we can. Amazing. Good. Okay, so if you guys are ready, we're coming up to around about 60 people, and I think that's not a bad show. So I'm going to hand over to Adrian and Clara from Special Projects. I don't know whether are you going to share the screen or?
Yeah, we are. We've put together some stuff, and I mean, Clive, we've got basically till 2, right? Is that right?
We can go on a bit longer than that if you like.
Well, no, don't tell us that, because we will just go on forever, because it's so hard to choose. We tried to pick a few things, and I've got a little list of projects. So we'll try and get through it. But I think if people have questions, feel free to ask.
Okay, that would be fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you very, very much.
Pleasure. So I'll just share the screen.
That's perfect. We can see that.
It should start. Here we go.
There. Fantastic. Great. Thank you again.
Pleasure. So, and hello, all students, mainly second years and maybe some first years. So it's super exciting to have so many people from the course here. So, Clara, start. Yeah, please do. No, you start. So
okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. My name is Clara. This is Adrian. We are the co-founder of Special Projects. It's always hard to define what the studio is, but we went for a design and invention studio. We probably do service design, we do UX design, interaction design. So it's very hard to put a category, but hopefully by the end of today, you'll see our work. We say that we try and help brave companies to invent tomorrow's most loved products. And I guess in this sentence, you could see that, we only work with brave clients, hence our name, which is Special Projects. We only try and do special projects. And then we try and create loved products. So we try and enhance the unquantifiable aspects of life, such as, you know, delight and joy, through the work that we do with these companies. There are three things that make us slightly different from other agencies. We have, as a background, two distinct backgrounds. So my background is in product and industrial design. I studied in Italy before coming to the RCA. And Adrian did electronic and computer vision, electronic engineering, computer vision at Bristol before coming to the RCA. So the company itself sort of reflects our passion for both physical and digital products and services. We strongly believe in human-centered approach. We've been doing these since, since we started 15 years ago, I guess now. We both worked at the Helen Hamlin Center after graduating from the RCA. So we've been trained into human-centered design early on. And we really involve users at the beginning of a project. We think that users are like muses, you know, they are a source of inspiration for us. Then our third distinctive trait is magic. Let you see the magic trick. So Adrian is a member of the Magic Circle. It is the oldest magic society in the world. He's been doing magic since the age of 12 or 11. So yes, it keeps us very entertained in the studio. But mainly what we like about it is that we feel that as designers, we want to create the same fuzzy feeling, the same element of joy and delight in the people using our products.
And I think the thing that we the way we talk about magic is really from a sort of experiential point of view. And what we're really interested in is the way that actual magicians who come up with magic tricks have such a kind of strong understanding of how an experience is gonna be perceived by the audience. And the key thing about magic is that the way that it works, the secret, the method, has to be kept secret. So magicians understand that the magic has nothing to do with how it's done. It's all about how it's going to be perceived. And because we work a lot with tech companies and with a lot of different technologies, there's a temptation to think that if you have something that's sufficiently technological, it's going to be magical. And there's a lot of focus on technology. And so what we like to do is, even though we have a firm kind of grounding in technology, is really focus on how it's experienced. And that's where we put all of our attention. So when we talk about magic, that's really what we're thinking about. And just to sort of explain, if you imagine a scale of magical kind of astonishment, at one end, you've got things that give you a warm, fuzzy feeling, like Clara mentioned. In the middle, you've got kind of a surprise, and then you've got wonder and awe and kind of miracles at the other end. Most magicians that you see on TV like to be up at the top end. They want to make, the Statue of Liberty disappear and do really kind of impressive stuff. As designers and in the work that we do, we're much more interested in the other end, the very small kind of micro magical interactions that just make you feel that something is special and gives you that kind of connection with an experience. That's what we're really interested in kind of achieving in our work.
So when I try to explain to my parents or to relatives what we do, I find it always quite challenging, right? When you say we are innovators, we make patents, we make new products. And finally, I found something that people seem to understand. And I told my family that what I do is actually, loving frustration. Like we look for frustration. So I always tell them, we love frustration because frustration are actually opportunities for us. The moment we find a frustration, then there is something that we can transform into a moment of delight. So really, if you are a designer, you might not have discovered this yet, but there is a love inside you for frustration and for fixing these frustrations. So if you think of a moment of frustration, then our work really aims at turning it into a wonderful, hopefully, moment of delight. So the first step in every project, and hopefully you'll see in the next example, is for us to find the real frustration. Is for us to find the moment that makes the user journey less interesting, less pleasant. So if you imagine that that line that you see on the screen is time passing and the user journey, we really need to find that deep, the moment in which the user is unhappy, and transform that into a moment of happiness. So I'm going to try and give you a very quick example. How when you trip on your laptop cable, there is that moment of like fear, and you imagine that, oh no, now the laptop is going to break. I need to take it to repair. I'm going to have, I'm going to be delayed on my work. Like all these thoughts come to your mind very quickly. And of course, let me say the user experience really drops. A few years ago, Apple solved that in a very magical way, and they invented one thing that is like a solution that is called the MagSafe. So when you trip on your laptop cable, the cable actually magically pops out, and your laptop is saved, is still there on the desk. And this is a tiny, tiny little thing, but literally made something, a moment that could have been a very strong moment of frustration into a moment of delight and relief almost. But let me give you an example from our work. So we picked a project that we did straight out of college in 2010, so actually 10 years ago. Good. This was a project that we did at the Helen Hamlin Center for Samsung. So I thought, even if the technology is a little old right now, this will maybe show you, give you some ideas of what you can be doing next. Samsung approached the Helen Hamlin Center, asking them how could they, how we could help older people to access and enjoy mobile technology. And I know some of you might have just done a project on aging, so this might be quite interesting. When we started working on aging, when we started looking at older people, we had a very cliche image in mind. We thought that older people were sort of, their body and mind was decaying. They were living in poverty. They were like sad. Every designer seems to think that older people love beige and gray. Everything designed for the aging population seems to be quite unattractive. But then we discovered during the process that the real picture is actually very different. Older people are full of energy, they have a very active social life, they travel a lot. We even spend a lot of time on dating websites aimed at the older population. And our favorite one was silverfishing.com. Yeah. I totally recommend a scan. We also looked at what technology companies were proposing to older people. And by older people at the time, we defined them as over 70. So, like people who were pretty much full of energy still. The technology companies were proposing this concept for the older adults. And I just want to point out that none of these phones have enough digits to dial a number. Like all of these phones, like, I don't know, they literally allow you to have 4 or 5 friends max, but they all have a beautiful SOS button just to remind you that you're about to die at any second. So when we saw this, we felt that this was very patronizing, this was very disrespectful. We decided we didn't want to do anything like this, even if the assumption in the room was that we would have designed a new silver phone. We tried instead to investigate the whole user journey. We looked at what happened before and after using a product to find really where was that deep in the user experience that I was mentioning before. And to do that, we interviewed people that learn about technology alone, people that learn about technology in couple, and even people that learn about technologies in group. This is the bingo club actually at the Barbican. So if any of you ever wants to do some user research with all the users after COVID, this is a great place to go. We also traveled across Europe. Samsung wanted to get a pan-European perspective, so we decided to go down in Italy, of course, for, I guess, my links with it, and up in Norway to, to really compare two very different countries and their relationship with mobile communication. In both countries, or in all the three countries, we ran a 6-hour-long workshop with 6 people. And what we did compared to the interviews is that we changed the way we were talking about technology. Like, we actually stopped talking about technology because we were getting the same answers. We started to talk about magic and aspiration and trying to ask people what they want from their phone, if their phone could be these like magical devices. And to help people show us that, we actually gave them a very fun medium. So we asked them to prototype their dream phone by using some bananas, ribbons, stickers. So this was very controversial and got us in a bit of troubles in the research world, because it was seen as almost a disrespectful research tool. But instead, we felt that by making people play and by making people imagine, we were really capturing their dreams and their aspirations on a product. So people stopped telling us, we want big buttons, we want big screens, that were the things they felt they needed to tell us. But they started to instead tell us what they really wanted from technology. So for example, these are all the bananas in Italy on the snow. The second banana says tutto vocale, anche SMS. That means all vocal, even SMS. So this person in 2010, or probably 2009 at the time, invented Siri, the mobile phone. Then if you can see, there are buttons to make a coffee, which we're still working on, but you can definitely find the nearest cafe. And then you have film, like a button for film. We got requests for weather forecast, traffic information, all the things that actually are almost a bit like commonplace today on smartphones. And they were starting to appear on the market in 2010. This banana was actually quite interesting for us because it has a button to make the kids happy. So this banana was made by a grandfather of 4, and he just wanted to have a button to make all the kids happy and not have any bother by any of them, which is something that we all do when we give our phone or tablets to our children, nephews, friends, just to keep them a bit at bay for a while. But also, this banana had a GPS. You see there is a map of Norway with a red dot on Oslo, where we were. And so we asked this gentleman what was different from the GPS on his current phone and the GPS on his dream banana phone. And the gentleman went bright red. He basically didn't know he had a GPS on his phone. So this activity of the banana that can seem trivial actually gave us a lot of insights, a lot of learning. We learned that people wanted powerful technological tools that could give them, weather forecast and traffic information and where they could watch film on. And we also understood that there was a barrier, something that was stopping older users to explore and understand the feature of their devices. So there was no problem with the users. They were like full of energy and enthusiasm. No problem with the devices coming on the market. Like the first iPhone was already there and Samsung was already starting to do smartphones. But there was a barrier in between. And the barrier became very, very clear when we took people of all ages to buy phones. In this video, you can see Duncan below. He was in his 20s at the time. We asked them to send us a text, and Duncan, opens the box, chucks the manual away, assembles the phone very quickly, and in I don't know, maybe a minute or 30 seconds, he was already sending us a text. Beverly instead was in her 60s at the time. She's very lost. The moment she receives the box, She checks if that's the right manual for the phone. Why is the phone not turning on? What is this little card that I have to put in? Like everything started to be very confusing. She was very happy and very enthusiastic to have a new phone, but the moment she got lost in the unboxing experience, everything became very sad. So that's exactly the frustration, like the moment we wanted to find in order to create a better, more magical experience. So in our case, the moment in which Beverly opened the box, everything went downhill, and we believe it never recovered after. So what we aimed to do was to change the unboxing experience so that the whole experience could become very positive afterwards. So at the moment, when you unbox a phone, you have a manual, you have the device, you have the box, and the user has to struggle to put all these things together. We wanted to create something that was a very frictionless experience. So we created 3 prototypes, 3 ideas for Samsung for them to implement across a whole series of products and a whole series of new technologies. And the first idea is this pack of cards, really. So you would find the phone in this box that is almost like iPhone size. And below the phone, you would find this set of cards. And each card represented a function of the phone, or I think today you would say maybe an app of the phone. And it was very clarifying for people because they could see how many things they knew how to do and how many things they didn't know how to do. And they could flick through cards very, very easily. But because all these, these are actually magic cards. So when you tap them onto the phone, they open the screen or the app, let me say, that they describe on the cover. And we use NFC, which at the time wasn't in the phone. So we had to prototype a sort of Frankenstein phone to demonstrate the interaction. But again, there was quite a magical moment when you tap the card and the phone does what you would like it to do. This is all about learning. So at the back of the card, there were instructions on how to access those functions on the phone by tapping on the device. So we also designed them so that you can carry them around and maybe learn on the go, maybe when you're on a long journey. Thank you, Aidan. The other concept that maybe is the most well-known is, again, a redesign of the unboxing experience, but this time transforming it into 2 books. The first book is to set up your phone, and the second book is actually to use your phone and learn about it. So the first book was actually structured to present all the elements in the right order. So on the first page, you find the SIM card that many people weren't familiar with. And then on the second page, you find exactly where you need to insert it. On the third page, you find the battery, and then again, where you need to insert it. And then on the last page, you find the cover. And then, of course, then it's clear where you need to put it. I know that now, mobile phones come pre-assembled, but at the time that was a massive barrier for people really understanding what to do first, where to put things. And then the second manual, this actually uses a very familiar mental model, particularly for older people, which is a book to guide them through linearly through something that is quite confusing. The second book speaks a very clear language. We got rid of all jargon like SMS or MMS. And then we also just made a space for the phone to be at the center of the attention. So all the instructions actually point exactly where you need to press and where you need to interact with the phone. You have to imagine that at the time for people, it was almost quite alien to touch the screen and to actually understand that the screens had buttons on it. So we had, just by putting a little indication next to the screen, then people would start touching on it and interacting with it correctly. So this project actually was quite instrumental for us. It was the first mobile phone user manual to be included in a museum of modern art. It took us around the world. They gave us a bit of visibility so we could start working with other clients and opening our studio. And now Adrian is going to show you at the other end of the spectrum, so our most recent work. And hopefully you see a bit of a line there in union.
Yeah, I think, I mean, if it's okay, I'll kind of carry on with the other projects. I think we really wanted to show this one in a bit more depth to go through our process, because in every project we do, there really is that search for that dip, because for us, it's really important that we're acting in the right place. We're coming up with the answer to a problem that actually needs to be solved. And so we really always kind of try and reserve as much space in a project to look around and search and kind of find that dip where to act. So all the other projects, we won't go into like as much of the research on them, but really this process is kind of present in everything we do. So this is like a kind of purely digital one, but like Clara mentioned, we really blur the definitions, of a physical and digital experience. We really like to be very open to be working in any kind of medium, and we never set up a project where we're kind of cornered, to just deliver a digital solution or just an analog solution. And this is an interesting one in terms of digital and physical. And we were looking at the problem of multitasking on a small phone. So I'm going to play a video. Hopefully the sound is okay. Let me know if it's not, and I can narrate it. But otherwise, here we go. We're really inspired by the way that people interact with objects, and there's so much potential in transferring some of our physical behaviors into the digital world. When we work with pen and paper, it's very easy to use our desk space to organize ourselves and move between tasks. The problem is, when you try and do this on a phone, switching between tasks can feel very unnatural and disrupt your flow. So we've invented a new way of digitally navigating through different apps on a phone, which is completely inspired by the physical world. You can literally pin an app to a physical space. So every time you bring the phone back to that exact space, the same app will be active. There's no limit to how many apps you could pin. It's a little like building a virtual desktop in the space around you. Let's imagine you're writing an email and you want to add an image. You just move to the place where your images are kept and drag it across. Or, if you want to copy some text over, you can literally drop it from one space to another. You can drag digital content using the physical space. Or imagine you're trying to fix an appointment with a friend. You can just switch between your calendar and your conversation until you find a date that works for both of you. We're really excited by the potential of using physical space to navigate the digital, and think that by being inspired by the ways humans behave, we can really enrich our digital interactions. So hopefully, you can see in that video, really the idea is just really trying to learn from how we actually move around and put stuff on our tables. You can't see my desk, but there's lots of stuff on it. And it's very easy to just kind of move between things. And it was really trying to bring some of those behaviors into the digital world and letting you switch between things just by moving your phone as you would move your hands in the real world. So I want to just show a couple of others that were kind of interesting to us. So we were asked by a client, I don't know how long ago now, maybe like 5 years ago or something. We've done a lot of health tech products for them. So they're kind of consumer health products like blood pressure monitors and different things like this. And they asked us to look at inventing a body scale, like a weighing scale. And we won't go into all the research again, but we did a very similar sort of journey to the Samsung project that Clara explained. And we really kind of tried to understand different people's perception of weight. So we had a pair of actual acrobats who, had to balance on things, and their weight was really important to them. We had an elderly couple who were trying to, reduce their cholesterol, weighing themselves, reluctantly every few days. Someone who just had a baby, and their sort of weight journey had obviously taken a kind of new and unexpected path over, a prolonged period of time. Some fitness freaks. We had people who were trying really hard to gain weight, as well as people who were trying to lose weight. And also some people who just didn't care about their weight, which is actually, quite a lot of people who just don't even own a weighing scale now. And it's just not something that they're too bothered about. what was interesting when we were looking for that dip is that it was really, really obvious. The dip was the moment you look at your weight and the number appears on the weighing scale. I mean, it's sort of staring you in the face, and we should have really known that at the beginning of the project, but we kind of needed to kind of feel confident that this was the main problem. And what it was is that number is usually, you know, if it's in kilos, it will maybe have 1 or sometimes 2 decimal points. That's a lot of resolution. That's like a really high resolution readout. And the truth is, you know, that this glass of water will, you know, add 200 grams to your weight. And it means that if you're weighing yourself every day, it's very likely that you might have had a really good day of exercise and eating salads, but just because you haven't gone to the loo, your weight might be higher than the last 2 days. And that's just going to create very strange feedback loops, you know, because you're not going to really understand the impact of your behaviors. So what we wanted to do was create a much calmer, slower interface. And we ended up creating a scale that actually doesn't tell you your weight. So it was quite a hard sell when we went back to the client. But we basically said, this is not going to tell you your weight. In fact, what it does is it's very good at knowing who you are. So if you share it with, you know, 3, 4, 5 people, it's pretty good at knowing who's who. And it also knows what your goal is over a period of time. And what it tries to do is, rather than thinking of a discrete moment in time and giving your weight there and then, it's actually showing you your progress in context over a longer period of time over that journey. And what it does is it essentially smiles at you. And that smile, though, there's a sort of algorithm in there which creates a smile gradient based on your progress towards your goal weight. So if you're doing quite well, then, you know, it will smile quite a lot. And if you're doing really well, it'll smile even more. But the idea is that it's just trying to smooth things out a little bit. If you have a bad day in a week or 3 bad days over, you know, a couple of weeks, it's not going to tell you off and make you worry for no reason. It's just giving you that quick check-in. Everything's kind of okay, or it's great. And then you get on with your day. You don't even really need to think or feel too bad. Then if you want to look at your phone later on, like on the bus or whatever, you can get into the high resolution data. But I mean, this whole approach kind of to calm technology is something we're really, really interested in as a studio. And I think this was kind of like one of our favorite little, you know, this is a real product that's kind of, you know, like on sale and stuff, examples of kind of trying to create a calmer interface. And these are just some of the other products I mentioned that we did for them. I just carry on if that's okay. So this is an interesting one. So Clara showed, yeah, the first project was a kind of essentially a research project with Samsung. The last one I just showed with the weighing scale was really like a commercial product for develop, you know, that was going to be made. But we do kind of move between quite experimental projects and ones which are, you know, really for immediate kind of consumption in a way. This one is totally an experimental one. So just bear that in mind. We were asked by Google this was over 2019 and actually a bit of 2020, to look at digital well-being. And that's such an amazing kind of theme that we're, you know, really, really interested in. So it was a really nice brief. And they asked us to look into physical artifacts that could help people find a balance with technology. And it was always meant to be very experimental. Everything was going to be open source and put online, etc. So brilliant brief to kind of work on. And I want to just show 2 of the solutions we came up with. Hopefully, yeah, I think we've got time, so it's fine. So when we were looking at this, we came across this word. It's not 100% official in the official dictionaries yet, but it is kind of, I think, on Wikipedia. So nomophobia, which is the fear or anxiety caused by not having a working mobile phone or signal. Or having the device further away. So it's like a kind of like a fear that you get by just not having the phone near you. And we thought that this was like a really, you know, fascinating thing. And it's also one of the primary reasons why people find it hard to, you know, leave their phone at home for a day, because there's just so many things that the phone is actually useful for. And we looked at a lot of different solutions that exist to try and help people use their phones less, essentially, or find a better balance. There are some purely digital ones. where there are apps that kind of lock your phone up after a certain amount of time. There's an interesting behavior that I'm sure some of you might have tried already. You can make your phone go into grayscale mode very easily, just in the operating system. And it just makes your phone a little bit less appealing. You know, your screen's just not quite as nice to look at. You don't see those red buttons when you get alerts. And it just calms that interaction down a little bit. It does work quite well. There's physical barriers, and this is an image from a company called Yonder in the middle. They manufacture these kind of bags that you can put your phone into, for example, before a big meeting or at a concert. And they actually kind of stamp it shut with the same system that you use to put security tags on clothing. You know, that kind of magnetic kind of system. And that they then give you your bag back. So you've kind of got your phone with you at the meeting, but you actually can't open it until you get to the end and they actually decide that they can open it for you. So it's quite extreme. And then there's a whole trend of people kind of buying replacement phones, you know, maybe getting an old Nokia phone for £20 that can just call and text. And of course, then you've removed, you know, a lot of the distractions. This is an image of the Light phone, which is a really beautiful project that came out a few years ago. And that's a kind of, again, essentially a minimal phone, but kind of, you know, with some really nice design features. Problem with that one in particular, what we found is that, you know, you'd have to go and buy another phone, you'd have to go and get another charger, you'd have more stuff. Not everyone can afford these phones. That one's about £200-300. We wanted to make something really, really accessible for people to just try. And what we kind of came across was this kind of idea of fasting in the sense of a diet. And the idea of like, could we give people a way of kind of fasting from their phone, like maybe one day a week, or even like 8 hours or for 4 hours, a really like low entry barrier kind of way of fasting from their device. And ideally make it as accessible as possible. So I'm going to show a video. I think I might just talk over it to make things a bit clearer. So yeah, we like making concept films a lot. But anyway, so here we go. So hopefully this is playing okay. So I mean, yeah, with paper phone, the kind of idea came from people, us asking people, you know, if you had, you know, this question that you ask people, if your house is burning down, what 5 things would you grab, you know, running out of the house? And we essentially asked them this about their phone. Like, if you just had to use 5 apps on your phone, what would you use? And it was really interesting because it highlighted that there's a lot of things that are really difficult to kind of leave behind, like maps or calendar entries that make it really hard to kind of leave that behind. And so this video, I'm just going to start playing it now, sort of shows some of the things that we use. So like I said, maps, the newspapers, to-do lists, etc. And we thought, could we try and find a way of letting people choose the things they want for the day? So we made this app, which essentially allows you, called Paperphone, to pick the things you want for the day. So maybe you want maps, you want your calendar, and then you hit print. And it will actually print out just that information onto a double-sided sheet of paper. And you fold that sheet of paper up into a little phone-sized package. And that's your paper phone. And that's essentially your phone for the day. You can leave your phone at home, and it's taken the things that we think you'll need for that day to allow you to kind of do as best as you can, kind of get through your day without actually having to use your phone. You can even put a card in and, you know, make payments. There's a really nice feature that you can even have 1 paper app a day, which is like a recreational app. So you can have a recipe, learn sign language, do maps, etc. And what's really nice with that is that you're using this app in a really passive way. You know, you can't kind of suddenly go into Instagram, like you've just got it, you're stuck with it. So it's obviously, you know, an experimental project, but we put this is actually on only on Android at the moment, unfortunately, but you can download this and try it out. Everything's open source as well. But it was a really interesting kind of problem to explore. It's a really, really challenging one, digital well-being. And actually, you know, we had a lot of journalists and people, you know, around the world actually trying this out and kind of playing with it. So yeah, that was the paper phone. The next one in the same sort of brief was called Envelope, and I'm going to mute this again. So again, same sort of brief, but we're trying to attack it from a slightly different angle. Again, using paper, but you'll see in a second. So this is just a little bit of intro. Yeah, you can watch it. It's on our website, with the voiceover another time. So yeah, the idea that, like I mentioned before, people sometimes use a secondary phone to try and get a break from their device. But we didn't want people to have to go out and buy something. We wanted them to be able to do something immediately. So we made this concept called envelope. It's a paper envelope, and you put your phone inside the envelope and seal it in. And then it actually only allows you to dial numbers because that's all that's printed on the envelope. So you can make and receive calls using this envelope, but you can't do anything else. So behind it, there's a special app running that only allows you to do things. So it also has a clock on it, which tells the time. You try and last as long as you can in the day before you have to open the envelope and take the phone out. And it sort of tells you, how long you've lasted. There's a second one, which is the camera envelope. This only lets you take photos and videos, but you can't even see them until the end of the day. So you have to wait until the very end. And a bit like with 35mm, film, you'd have to wait till you get home in the evening and kind of see the results. So you could maybe go out on a walk, for example, like in a beautiful place, and not be kind of distracted by things. So again, we made this open source. And we've got a printable envelope that people can kind of just download and use at home. And again, like as the video sort of showed, you slide your phone in. I think what was interesting with this one, which I just did want to show, was the idea of a sort of paper interface. So I'll just play for 1 second. This is just a few of the images. And the idea that almost you get a new product, essentially, just out of a piece of paper. So yeah, this is what it looks like when you're dialing a number. So your phone's behind that, and we've got a special app running. But it really kind of tricks you into thinking that this is like a weird, like new product with just a piece of paper. And so these are the functions. It was interesting kind of trying to come up with features for this putting in as many limitations as possible. So trying to, give it features, but not kind of destroy the magic of it by, giving it too many. So that's the carbon footprint. Yeah. The interesting thing as well, when we did this project, I'll just pause it here. We were a little bit worried about getting lots of people to print things, it's a lot of paper, a lot of material. But we did some kind of back of envelope calculations, and it's really quite amazing. If you look at the full kind of embodied CO2, including the electricity to run the printer, I can't remember perfectly, we do have it on our website, but it's around about 10 grams a year if you print a sheet of paper every day, all year. If you use a phone for an hour every day, just on things using email, Instagram, these sorts of things, it's about 1.5 tons at the end of the year of CO2. So it's, a huge kind of several orders of magnitude difference because there is so much, CO2 associated to using the devices. So weirdly, even though it looks like you're going to be throwing away lots of material every day, actually the impact was much less by using your phone less. So Clara, do you want to show this last one? Okay, so this is quickly, and then we'll stop talking.
It's interesting that you chose this one. So this is a little last project. It's again a bit tongue-in-cheek, and it's something to show that we believe that the experience with the product doesn't end after you have built it. So this is really focusing on a pain point that happens later. I guess you're all familiar with this flat pack furniture company that has beautiful manuals. We felt though that there were some missing pages, we've never experienced a happy ending. Like every time we had to build the flat furniture together, we were then either in pain or we had a fight, or it was always something wrong. So we thought, what if we design these missing pages that could transform this bad ending into a happy ending? So we have 3 little experiments. The first one is called Duo, and is for people who are building a double bed and probably will end up fighting. These missing pages offer you little templates that you can fill in with the 3 reasons that make you a very good team at the beginning of the journey, not at the end. This is something you'll do before you start the building process. And then it gives you some instructions on how to fold this piece of paper into a beautiful heart-shaped origami. Then we had Stretchy, who is for people who go solo probably and trying to build a bookshelf and end up with a back pain. For this, we worked with a personal trainer, and we advise people to transform their box into an impromptu yoga mat, and then follows the stretches that have been designed for the areas you end up injuring when you build a bookshelf. So wrist stretch, arm stretch, back stretch, so you're as good as new at the end. This is, there was still sleepy, but probably is not there. There is a third one. If you want, you can see on our website. I hope you enjoyed the talk today, and we are here for a little bit longer if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Adrian and Clara. Absolutely joyous. In these days of anxiety and seriousness, it was really refreshing to, I think I was on full grin the whole way through your presentation. So thank you. It was just, it was magic. And I remember looking at your projects just only a couple of months ago and thinking, wow. And I think that's something in what you say that resonates with everybody here. We've got to 93 students. That's great turnout. Thank you very much, everybody. Any questions for special projects? Be delighted to have them. They usually come through in the chat, and somebody said, wow. Okay, it's gone pretty well. Any thoughts, any observations? Do feel free to turn your camera and mic on and ask some questions of Adrian and Clara if you wish. Inspiring, really nice. Thank you. You've inspired the students already.
Very sweet.
So when you were, I might ask a question. Oh, Alessandro, hi.
Yes, hi. I had a quick question regarding the phone design. First of all, that's amazing. I love that.
Thank you.
I just had one question. You see, many times I see a lot of professional designers, like when modernizing or recreating a design, reinventing it, they usually look back to older design, to the history of maybe a product, and that's fine. But sometimes they risk of falling, you know, in the pit hole of simply redoing the same product. So you lose all the features that were added to make something that was left behind for obvious reasons during the evolution of it. How do you prevent that from happening when reinventing something, like with the phone?
You mean like with the envelope one, for example?
Yeah, the envelope phone.
So you mean, sorry, I just want to make sure I understood the question. So like, how do you, because we kind of went back in time essentially and created like a sort of simple phone. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, but how do you do that without, you know, feel like the product is alienating? How do you not alienate through the project, making it feel necessarily old just for the hell of it?
I think with that one in particular, like I think we find that, you know, because we found a behavior that some people were using old phones and they were actually quite happy with that as a solution. We knew that it was a sort of viable solution, but it wasn't perfect because you had to buy a new thing. You had the SIM card issue. You had another charger that probably wasn't the same as the other charger. You know, there were a lot of additional problems, but we knew that the actual, in many ways, like the device itself wasn't a bad sort of solution for now. I think with that one, we really wanted a sense of familiarity. And also, you know, because it was an experiment, like I said, it was kind of more of a design provocation. There was, I think, a lot to be gained by trying to really make it as close to an old phone as possible. That's why the clock, you know, uses the same digits is definitely maybe not the most efficient way of doing it, but it's almost a bit of, you know, it's almost a bit of sort of humor in there. I think what's nice with that though is once you kind of take it off, the app tells you, you know, how long you've been using it for, and there's a sort of extra layer that you get from the existing device that you just couldn't possibly get on the original device. So I think with that one, I mean, it's a weird example. So it's not all of our projects are always sort of experimental like that, but we really wanted to bring as many of the sort of traditional features in because we were kind of wanting that idea that your kind of really modern, expensive device with a bit of paper has suddenly gone back in time and been transformed into something else. And that's really what we wanted to kind of retain in that way.
Fantastic. Got a few other questions.
Sure.
We've got Vridhi. Do you want to join us, or I'll read your question out? Just asking. Hi.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Yeah, why do you think that Apple changed back to like non-magnet chargers for its laptops? Because I agree, earlier it was much less stressful because the charger was so much easy, it would easily just go off.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I don't know. I mean, you have to ask them really, but I mean,
It's probably for dimension, right?
yeah. I mean, I think they basically, I don't know, they kind of valued the idea of having just one connector that does everything essentially, and they weren't able to kind of do that with the connector. And so I guess they decided to place more value on that convenience. But yeah, I'm going to keep my old laptop forever, just to have one to play with
We lost
till I'm
a
old.
legend there.
Yeah.
I think interestingly, it was a sustainability issue as well, and Apple were very criticized for having unique plug-in components. So by going to USB-C and standardizing, that actually was a big sustainability angle. So there's always a balance, isn't there? You know, there's always a kind of, this is great, but then this is over here. Yeah, I mean, I've always hated the USB connections, and the old one where you couldn't tell which way round it went in, you know. It was so poorly designed. So you have to wait for the rest of the world to catch up with where Apple was previously.
Yeah.
Sorry to jump in. Anyway, next one we've got is Linda. Oh, yes. Oh, no, just that's a nice comment. That was great. Loved how users could print at home. Anchit, you've got a very interesting question. Do you want to come in and ask your question? Hi.
I really like the work that you showed us and the experimental nature of it. One of the things I was thinking of was that as young designers, we're sort of interested in speculative work, work of this kind, but how do you sort of go around building career around that? Like as a designer, how do you sort of put yourself out there and tell them this is the kind of work I want to do? And how do you go about finding companies that would want you to do this kind of work for them?
You know, you'll be surprised. A lot of companies, mainly large companies, have experimental branches and experimental departments. I think it's very important that your portfolio reflects your interests and your, you know, way of working. So I guess ideally you have, you know, 2 or 3 projects that really show your way of thinking in an experimental way. And it's the same, I think, comment I would tell someone that really wants to go and work in consumer medical, you know, then hopefully your portfolio shows that. Or you can always come and work here, or you can start your own crazy studio. You know, there are many ways.
I do think this is interesting though. I think it's quite, I think for us, like it's really because, you know, we're showing just like a little bit of what we do. And really, I mean, a lot of the work that we do, we can't show, especially the more experimental stuff, because it's maybe for quite a few years ahead. So it stays secret sort of forever, or it feels like forever. But I think it's important for us to put these projects out and be able to, you know, share them. And so we've kind of gotten into a bit of swing of you know, turning little ideas into videos and just as a way of sort of sharing our thinking. So I think that helps a lot. And that's, I think, what's so nice with more experimental kind of projects is that they're kind of interesting, right? They're kind of different. So that, yeah, I would say sharing as much as you can is really important.
I'd just add that we all get very serious when we design our services, and we all see ourselves as problem solvers and savers of the world. I would encourage us all to have a bit more fun when we design our services, and, you know, look at how Adrian and Clara are using that journey to find the pain points. You're really good at that, but let's not just solve them. Let's solve them with a bit of magic too, you know.
No, Clive, our professor at the RCA, I don't know if you know him, he's called Tom Barker, once told us this thing that has been really a bit of a guiding mantra for us. And he always said, if you're not having fun, you're not working hard enough.
I like that. I like that.
It's true, because if you're not having fun, if you're not finding something like super exciting, it means you haven't pushed yourself enough to find the perfect solution. So yes, I agree. I totally agree with what you just said.
Yeah, fantastic. And also you're at the RCA, for goodness sake. If you don't have fun now, you never will. Oh, no, actually, Adrian and Clara show you can still. Sorry, yes, Shang, you ask a very interesting question about designing bananas for everybody. Do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, sure. Hi, hello guys. Thank you for presenting your project. It's very interesting, and I think the idea is very smart, and as Clive said, it's very refreshing in these days. And my question is like, when you do the prototype, especially for the old people's phone, like the banana one. So my question is like, how could you combine the different people's needs? Because like they may have like, all different needs, and obviously we couldn't design like different phones for each person. Did there have any like criteria when you're designing?
Yes, that's a very good question, and that's, you know, it's a little bit the secret sauce, right? So when you do user research, we try and listen and ask as many questions, and as you said, sometimes the answers are different. People want different things. People have different needs. And then it really comes to the skill of the designer to sort of later step back, analyze all the findings, and hopefully find some trends. So what we do is that, you know, if we, for example, with the scale, you know, we looked at people that were acrobats, like super in control of their weight, all the way to a woman that just had a baby, all the way to older people. So their needs was very different. But when we found the thing that they all had in common, we knew that that was the gem, you know, the thing that we really needed to look at. So I guess during the research, try and absorb as much as you can, and then later use your skills to pick that focus point or that element that you want to focus on.
Thank you.
Fantastic. We're nearly up on time. I'm going to have one more question from the chat. Who have we got here? There's a few questions around technology. Adia, are you there? Adia. Just touching on the digital side. I'll read your question out if you're not there, or jump in if you are. Nowadays, most solutions include digital aspects or are mostly based around apps and websites. How do you steer away from design solutions that are only apps?
I mean, it's interesting. Like, part of it is at the moment you set the brief, you know, you need to have that leeway, and like that's just something that we're getting better and better at. You know, it's not always perfect, but you know, if a client like sets up a project thinking it's going to be an app, and that's sort of in the contract, it can be quite hard sometimes to sort of do a U-turn if you want to stay true, you know, to your research, and you find out that it shouldn't be. So I think having like some leeway at the brief stage is really, really important to be open to it. And I think for us, it's not that we always try, like we say, it has to have a digital element, it has to have a physical element, but I think we're just, I think thinking as much as possible about the context of use, like, you know, for example, like we always, City Mapper is a bit like, you know, like Google Maps if you don't use it, but it's a nice kind of transport app. You know, and that's a purely digital app, but you know, the reality is, like, if it's raining and you're in a hurry, there's a lot of maybe physical considerations that could go into that, about how could you still use it if it's in the rain, or how, you know, you're crossing the road, you might not be looking. There's loads of like physical features that you could think about in the context of use that could really inform the digital side. Think about banking apps as well. Like, at the end of the day, it's an app, but you're tapping your phone, you're getting updates in situ, like while you're spending that money. There's a lot of kind of physical kind of contextual scenarios that could inform that. So we kind of like to think that no app is ever truly digital. I mean, you know, on a basic level, you're still like actually tapping or typing. You know, it's not a direct kind of link to your brain, but the truth is you're usually somewhere with someone else doing something else. Something else might be going on. There's a lot of physical kind of environmental context that can go in. So even if you're doing a purely digital app, it really, really helps to think about that physical context.
I'm going to ask two more questions. I beg your pardon. One here and then one of my own, and then we'll call it to a close. I'm wondering, I'm going to read this out for you, Vidri, but it's a great question. I'm wondering whether companies would be on board when you present them with such unique and simple solutions. How do you keep them calm during the process?
We don't.
It's a, I mean, I don't know if you want to say, it's a really good question. I don't know, like, I think one thing is, you know, at the end of the day, they've got enough warning, right? We call ourselves special projects. There's the projects that we show, like, they should know by the time they kind of sign, you know, that this is the deal. And they kind of, you know, we want people who, you know, I think, you know, people would only come to us if they kind of want something unexpected. Otherwise, you could go to many other places and get, you know, if you have a more kind of specific brief, you know, that's really the kind of briefs that we love. So it's sort of like a deal at the beginning, but sometimes it can be tricky when the person, our client, maybe then presents to someone else and we're not in that kind of conversation. That's why we do these concept videos and try to document things and really like compress down into like a 2-minute thing that just captures it, that nobody can mess up when they share it with someone else. So we'll do that a lot with our clients to just ensure that that kind of weird idea stays kind of explained properly further on down the line when we're not there.
And then I guess that's a very good point. And then the other thing that I would say is that because we are very heavily user-centered, it's never our word against their word. Like we always have proof of what we are talking about, or some sort of evidence, or something that, you know, is rationally pointing us in that direction. So it's never there is never confrontation. There is definitely, you know, a bit of worry and a bit of like, oh my God, are we really gonna do a scale that doesn't show the weight? So, but then hopefully by sharing with them our journey and sharing with them our discovery, then they, you know, they'll understand and they'll go for it.
Yeah. Final, very short question. I want to ask each of you, top tip for the students. Clara. That's a terrible question, isn't it?
Definitely the having fun, you know, if you're not working hard enough, if you're not having fun, you're not working hard enough. And then I guess, I think my advice would be to jump. Like I remember when I went at the RCA, and particularly when I saw Adrian's project, I came from a very classical industrial design background in Italy, where, you know, we study history of design 3 years before we even design something. It's very, very different from the British, or definitely from the RCA model. And I remember I told myself, I'm either gonna jump and get as much as I can from this experience, or I'm gonna stay where I was before. And I think because I jumped, that, you know, really changed my life.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Adrian, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think probably the main other thing would be like to collaborate with other departments while you're at the RCA, because it really is such a unique mix of disciplines. And, you know, there are a lot, you know, of course there are lots of art schools, but it's a really, really special place. And I think in particular with courses where you might be doing many things that end up being digital, you know, collaborating with a textile designer or you know, a sculptor is really gonna absolutely, like, you know, quadruple or like really multiply your perspective on problems. So I don't know how you'll do it this year and how you kind of meet people, but in general, we always found that like so many people were up for doing little weird side projects and things. And I think that's really, really important while you're there, a bit number one kind of thing.
That's fantastic piece of advice. And of course, we're just about to do our grand challenge with the first years, where they do collaborate very technically. Just leaves me to say thank you so much. You've cheered us all up. You've inspired us. It's been absolutely great. You've got rounds of applause already. We do like to do this thing where everyone comes off mute and gives a round of applause for, I think, an amazing talk. There you go. A few people doing it. There you go.
Amazing.
It's a sound we don't hear so much anymore, so we like to recreate it.
I must say, it's such a surreal sound, the sound of many people clapping from different microphones.
All over the world, literally.
Thank you all for joining us. It's very humbling to see you all in all these different parts of the world with different meteorological and, you know, like light situations. So it's great. Thank you.
Well, we'd love to ask you back again, and maybe physically too soon enough, we hope. But good luck to everything you're doing, and thanks to everybody. You ended up with nearly 100 students in the end, so that was great. Really appreciate. Thanks to anybody on YouTube live stream or watching this in the future on our YouTube channel. It's been a really fantastic talk. Thank you very much. Have a good day, everybody. I'll say goodbye. Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.